decades is no longer working for you, you can't just keep doing it. And over the past 3 years, more people have left than have entered. That is frankly, it's a death spiral for the Canadian Armed Forces. We cannot afford to continue on that pace. We've got to do something differently.
The Prime Minister pointed to his government's investments in the military when asked about the state of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Over the past years, every single year this government has invested more in defence. We're going to continue to make sure that the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces have the tools necessary to step up.
So what does this all mean for the state of Canada's military? Retired Lieutenant General Guy Thibault is the chair of the board of the CDA Institute and a former vice chair of chief of the defense staff. He joins me now. General, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, David, thank you for having me.
We got two very alarming comments and revelations, I think, about the state of the military this week. And I want to start with the first one from my colleague Murray Brewster. The internal report says only about 58% of Canada's military could be mobilized if there was an urgent need to support NATO. What does that tell us about the state of the armed forces in this country?
So I really appreciate Murray's coverage of this. It's talking about essentially the readiness of the Canadian Forces to undertake the missions that the Government of Canada has asked of it. And it covers materiel readiness, it covers the people readiness, it covers the overall sustainment ability of our operations. And so from the perspective of 58% of our material capacity ready, our vehicles, our major fleets, air, sea, and land, is actually quite alarming in terms of a demonstration of the underfunding that has chronically been afforded to defense for keeping these systems ready for operations.
Is it just underfunding? Because the other alarming thing to my ears was when Defense Minister Bill Blair said that the military is facing a death spiral on recruitment and that there are just more people leaving than there are coming in. Is the lack of interest because of the lack of funding, or is there something larger happening there?
Well, I think it's a great question to ask. In the last 2 days, we've had the Ottawa Conference on Defence and Security gathered to really look at the world and look at where the Canadian Forces fit in it. And we actually spent quite a bit of time talking about the state of the armed forces and the need to adapt to the changing world around us. The people problem is at the centerpiece of the Canadian Forces readiness. You can have the best equipment, the best capabilities, the best processes, all the money in the world, but if you don't have people, you don't have capabilities to actually undertake the operations. So the people problem has been, I think, understood for some time. This isn't a new phenomena. I think that COVID really hurt in terms of our ability to get out and really attract members to.
Canada spends about 1.4% of its GDP on defense.
The country's leading economic voices, the Business Council of Canada, writing the Prime Minister, warning that the failure to produce a plan to meet NATO's defense spending target of 2% of GDP ahead of next month's summit in Washington will have consequences, including diplomatic isolation in both security and economic partnerships. To meet the NATO spending target, however, Ottawa would have to spend about $64 billion a year on defense, double what's planned for this year's budget.
Canada is actually the first country to announce $5 billion of that will be a Canadian contribution, because we know how important it is to make sure you have the tools to continue to defend not just your country, but all of our democracies. And the